Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you love captivating stories about men transforming into women in unique and fascinating ways, then be sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Now, let's jump right into today's tale.
The 10-minute walk to Craig's apartment felt like crossing the Sahara Desert in stilettos. Not that Hannah had any experience with stilettos yet. Thank God for small mercies. Her heart was doing its best impression of a drum solo, and her palms were so sweaty she'd already wiped them on her hoodie about 50 times. "Get it together," she muttered to herself, trying to ignore the way her hips seemed to have developed a mind of their own. Left foot, right foot. It's not rocket science. A passing car honked, making her jump. The driver, a young guy, gave her an appreciative whistle. "Oh, brilliant," she grumbled, tugging her hoodie lower. "Is this what women deal with all the time? No wonder Mum's hexed so many people." The thought of her mother made her groan. The woman's parting words still rang in her ears. "Remember, dear, if you're going to snog him, at least explain who you are first." "Thanks for that, Mum. Really helpful." Her mind helpfully supplied images of snogging Craig, which sent another wave of heat through her body. "Stop that," she hissed at herself. "We are not thinking about Craig's lips, or his arms, or how he always smells like mint and coffee. Oh my God, brain, shut up." An elderly woman walking her dog gave Hannah a concerned look. "Sorry," Hannah muttered, feeling her cheeks burn. "Just having an existential crisis. You know how it is." The woman hurried past, pulling her dog along. "Great," Hannah sighed. "Now I'm the crazy person talking to herself on the street. Though I suppose that's better than being the person who accidentally turned herself into her best friend's dream girl, because the universe has a twisted sense of humor." She could see Craig's building now, looming ahead like some sort of romantic comedy finale setting. Her stomach did a complicated gymnastics routine. "Right," she said, stopping to gather herself. "Game plan: walk in, explain everything calmly. Try not to spontaneously combust when he looks at me. And definitely don't think about how good his arms look in t-shirts. Damn it." Her phone buzzed. "Craig, you close? Should I put the kettle on?" Hannah's heart did a backflip. Even through text, he was adorable. "Hannah, almost there. Tea would be great." Hannah. Also, fair warning, still blonde and tiny. Craig. Still gorgeous then. Craig. I mean different. Craig. I meant different. Craig. Oh God, kill me now. Well. Hannah wheezed, fanning her suddenly burning face. At least I'm not the only one having a meltdown. She looked down at herself one last time. The yoga tights hugged every curve like they were getting paid for it, and even the oversized hoodie couldn't hide the fact that she was built like a petite bombshell. "This outfit was a terrible idea," she muttered. "Should have worn a potato sack. Or chainmail, something less clingy." Her phone buzzed again. "Craig. Sorry about that last message." "Craig? Having a bit of a crisis." "Craig. You're still you though, right?" "Craig. Just different looking." "Craig. Not that different is bad." "Craig, I'm going to stop texting now. Oh God." Hannah groaned, pressing her forehead against a nearby lamppost. "He's nervous rambling. That's his nervous rambling text pattern. Why is that making me feel things? This body has no chill." She forced herself to keep walking, trying to ignore the way her heart fluttered with every step closer to Craig's building. "Okay," she told herself firmly. "You can do this. Just act normal." Well, as normal as possible, given that you're currently living in a romantic comedy plot twist. Don't stare at his arms. Don't think about how blue his eyes are. Don't remember how he used to hug you And how that would feel now with these new curves, for God's sake, brain. She reached his building, staring up at his window. The light was on, and she could almost picture him pacing around his living room, probably running his hands through his hair the way he did when he was nervous. "Right," she said, taking a deep breath. "Time to face the music. Or in this case, face the unreasonably attractive best friend, who I'm suddenly having very non-platonic feelings about." No pressure. She pressed the buzzer before she could talk herself out of it. The door suddenly swung open before she could ring, making her squeak in surprise. Craig stood there, looking like he'd been running his hands through his hair for hours. It stuck up in every direction, making him look adorably disheveled. His blue eyes went wide when he saw her, his mouth dropping open slightly. "Hi." "Nine." It came out as more of a question than a greeting, his voice cracking like a teenager's. Hannah's new body immediately responded to his presence, sending waves of warmth through her that made her toes curl in her shoes. "Traitor." She mentally hissed at her racing heart. "Hey." "Aw," she managed, her voice coming out in that ridiculous Disney princess lilt that made her want to crawl under a rock. She tugged at her hoodie, suddenly very aware of how the yoga tights left absolutely nothing to the imagination. Craig's eyes did a quick sweep of her body before snapping back to her face, his cheeks turning pink. He ran a hand through his hair again, making it even messier. "You're, still, still, blonde and tiny," Hannah supplied, trying not to focus on how cute he looked when flustered. "Yeah. That hasn't changed in the last 10 minutes since I texted." "Right." Craig squeaked, then cleared his throat. "Right. Yes. Of course." His eyes kept darting between her face and other areas, like he couldn't quite help himself. "You're the woman from last night. The one who appeared in my living room and then ran away before I could." Before you could process that your best friend had turned into a walking fantasy? Hannah's mouth supplied before her brain could stop it. Her eyes widened in horror. "I mean, that's not... Can I come in before I die of embarrassment right here in your hallway?" Craig practically jumped aside, gesturing wildly. "Yes, come in, please. I made tea. And found biscuits. Though they might be stale, I'm talking in exclamation points." Hannah slipped past him, trying very hard not to notice how good he smelled, or how the movement brought her way too close to his chest. Her new body had other ideas, sending a shiver down her spine that made her bite her lip. Craig's apartment looked exactly the same. Coffee mugs everywhere, that ratty blanket he refused to throw away draped over the couch, and the general organized chaos that was so Craig. It was comforting and terrifying at the same time. "Zoe?" Craig said, closing the door and leaning against it like he needed the support. What exactly?" He gestured vaguely at all of her. "This is Nash Pass. A magical disaster?" Hannah offered, perching on the edge of his couch. "A cosmic joke? The universe's way of saying you think you've got problems." "Hold my beer." Craig let out a strangled laugh, dropping into his armchair. "You sound like..." His eyes narrowed, studying her face. "You remind me of your best friend?" Hannah supplied helpfully. "The one who's usually taller and less curvy?" "Yeah." Craig said, then seemed to realize he was staring at said curves and quickly looked away, his face burning. I wasn't looking. I was. But not. Oh God, kill me now." Hannah couldn't help but giggle, the sound coming out far more feminine than she was used to. Well, this is going great. Very smooth. Top marks for both of us. Craig's head snapped up, his eyes widening. Handel? He whispered, looking like he'd been hit with a stunning spell. Is that? Are you? I. Surprise? Hannah offered weakly, giving a little wave. I do jazz hands, but I think that might be overkill. Craig's mouth opened and closed several times, no sound coming out. Finally, he managed. How? What? Why are you? He gestured at her body again, then seemed to realize what he was doing, and quickly sat on his hands. Okay. Whoa, Hannah said, taking a deep breath. This is going to sound completely mental. Like, check me into Saint. Mongo's mental. But before I explain, can I just say that your staring is doing things to my new body that we're both going to have to deal with later? Craig made a sound like a dying whale and promptly fell out of his chair. Well, Hannah muttered, watching him scramble back up. At least he didn't faint this time. Progress. Tea, Craig practically shouted, jumping to his feet. We need tea. Lots of tea and possibly alcohol. Craig? Yes? He froze halfway to the kitchen, looking like a deer in headlights. Your fly's open. He looked down in panic, then back up, face flaming. No, it's not. I know. Hannah smirked. But that reaction was priceless. Craig stared at her for a long moment, then collapsed back into his chair, running both hands through his hair. It really is you in there, isn't it? Yep. Just new. Packaged differently. Hannah gestured at herself. Very differently. And before you ask, yes, they're real. No, I didn't plan this. And yes, this is extremely weird for me too. Craig made another strangled noise. I wasn't going to ask about those. Your eyes say otherwise, mate. My eyes are traitors, and should be ignored. Craig muttered, then looked up at her. So? Explanation? Hannah took another deep breath, trying to ignore how his disheveled appearance was making her new body react. Right. Explanation. Just. Promise not to freak out? Too late for that, Craig said weakly. Way too late. Hannah perched on the edge of the couch, trying to figure out how to explain that she'd accidentally turned herself into his perfect woman without sounding like a complete lunatic. So, she started, fidgeting with the hem of her hoodie. You know how sometimes weird stuff happens around me? You mean like suddenly turning into a gorgeous blonde? Craig blurted, then immediately looked like he wanted to die. I mean, different, turning different. Yes, thank you for that stellar observation of my current state, Hannah said dryly, trying to ignore how the word gorgeous made her stomach flip. But I meant before that. Like when your ex-girlfriend's car mysteriously broke down right before she could cheat on you? Craig's eyes widened. That was you? Or when that job interviewer who was being a complete tosser suddenly developed an urgent need to use the bathroom? Also you? Or when your coffee magically refills itself when you're studying late? I thought I was just really tired and forgetting that I'd refilled it. Craig ran his hands through his hair again, making it stick up even more adorably. Wait, so all this time? I'm a witch, Hannah said quickly, like ripping off a plaster. Surprise again. I'm just full of surprises today, aren't I? Craig stared at her. A witch? Yes. Like broomsticks and cauldrons? Well, I prefer Uber and my mom's Le Creuset, but essentially, yes. Craig leaned back in his chair, looking dazed. That actually explains a lot. Like how you always know when I'm having a bad day before I tell you. Or why my socks keep matching themselves. You noticed that? Hannah asked, surprised. I just thought I was getting better at laundry. He paused. Wait, so last night? Hannah winced. Right. About that. I may have tried to cast a spell to find your perfect woman because you've been moping around like a sad puppy lately. And I thought maybe if you met someone. She gestured at herself. But instead of finding her, I kind of turned into her. Surprise? Third time's the charm? Craig's mouth opened and closed several times. So you're telling me that you tried to help me find my perfect woman, and the spell turned you into her? The universe has a weird sense of humor? Hannah offered weakly. And you're actually Handel? My best friend? In the flesh. Very different flesh. But still me. She tried for a smile. Though I have to say, mate, your type is a lot shorter than I expected. Craig made a strangled noise. I don't have I never. This isn't no. Your ears go red when you lie, Hannah pointed out. They're practically glowing right now. Craig slapped his hands over his ears, then realized what he was doing and dropped them. This is insane. Welcome to my world. Currently starring me as your magical dream girl, apparently. She immediately wanted to bite her tongue off. I mean, that's not... Oh God. So you're stuck like this? Craig asked, his eyes doing that wandering thing again before snapping back to her face. Yep. Permanently tiny and bouncy. She crossed her arms over her chest. Which you need to stop staring at, by the way. I wasn't... Craig started, then stopped at her raised eyebrow. Okay, maybe a little. But, in my defense, this is a lot? Hannah supplied. Trust me, I know. Try waking up with these. Do you know how hard it is to find a comfortable sleeping position now? Craig made another choking sound. Can we not talk about your sleeping positions? Why? Is it making you uncomfortable? Hannah asked innocently, then immediately wondered where this newfound boldness was coming from. Her body apparently had opinions about flirting with Craig that her brain hadn't approved. Everything about this is making me uncomfortable, Craig exclaimed. My best friend is suddenly a witch who turned herself into. He gestured at all of her again. Your type? Hannah suggested, unable to help herself. Your perfect woman? The girl of your dreams. Stop saying that. Craig's face was now approximately the color of a tomato. Why? Is it true? The words were out before she could stop them. Craig stared at her, his blue eyes wide and intense. You. This is. Using a lot of pronouns there, mate. You're enjoying this way too much. Craig accused. Hannah shrugged, surprised to find that she kind of was. Well, if I'm stuck like this, I might as well have fun with it. Besides, she added with a smirk, your reactions are pretty entertaining. I'm so glad my crisis is amusing you, Craig muttered, but there was a hint of a smile playing at his lips. Your crisis? What about mine? I'm the one who turned into a magical pinup. She paused. Though I have to say your taste isn't half bad. These curves are ridiculous. Craig made a sound like he was dying. Can we please stop talking about your curves? Why? Are they distracting you? There was that boldness again. Her new body apparently had no filter when it came to Craig. I hate you. Craig groaned, burying his face in his hands. No, you don't. Hannah said cheerfully. According to this spell, you actually find me quite attractive. I'm never going to live this down, am I? Not a chance, mate. Not a chance.